Early on the third day, the squad arrived at Glacier River. It was rumored that nearby was a small, very low-lying basin, which was also the destination of this trip. As it was a top-secret mission, we couldn't find locals to guide us, and in fact no one knew the way anyway, so we had to rely on a crude official map, searching for our destination through winding ink lines like messy cursive on the map. Glacier River was formed by 3 branches, with a very large difference in water levels. The riverbed was almost vertical, with the highest point over 6,000 meters above sea level, where tens of thousands of years of ice and snow never melted. The middle section of the river was the longest, entirely a mirror, smooth ice surface hundreds of meters thick. The lower section was even lower than the average elevation of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, like a deep fissure torn into the earth. The warm, humid air here had formed a rare strip of lush green vegetation. In the lowest part, altitude sickness was also somewhat alleviated. If one wanted to go deeper into the Kunlun mountain range, they absolutely had to pass through the gorge below this glacier river. Before setting off, the architects had warned everyone that while marching below the glacier, no loud noises should be made, otherwise an avalanche would bury everyone below. Everyone in the team dared not breathe heavily, but midway, something still happened. On the path from Glacier River down into the gorge, an architect from Beijing carelessly slipped and fell down Glacier River. By the time we found our way down to the oasis below, we only saw his mangled body sprawled on the ground. Lac Nin, the geological survey engineer, who was from the same unit as him, couldn't help but want to scream and cry at the tragic sight. A geology expert named Wang quickly covered her mouth with his hand and whispered, "Don't cry out loud." Lac Nin buried her head in expert Wang's chest, sobbing in agony. The political commissar was the first to take off his hat and bow his head in silent tribute to their fallen comrade's body. After that, Caoa and I collected the architect's body, wrapped it in a bag, and buried it. This architect had been with us for less than 3 days. I only knew he was from Beijing. Before I could even ask his name, he had quietly passed away like that. Andu gently dug into the soil with his entrenching tool. After only a few strokes, a basketball-sized blue fireball suddenly shot out from the hole, circled twice in the air, and then abruptly plunged into the midst of the group. The members quickly dodged. The fireball fell to the ground, and its blue-colored flame gradually extinguished. On closer inspection, it turned out to be a strangely shaped insect, its entire body transparent like red crystal. Its wings were even more translucent and shimmering. One could see the faint internal organs through the transparent shell, and within it, a flickering flame seemed to be hidden, appearing indescribably bizarre and mysterious. The whole team looked at each other, wanting to ask what kind of insect it was, but no one could provide an answer. Presumably, it was an undiscovered species. Expert Wang curiously approached, adjusted his heavy eyeglasses perched on his nose with a finger, and delightedly picked up the fire-red bug with 2 fingers, carefully bringing it up for a closer look. But just then, the finger that touched the bug suddenly burst into a green flame. In an instant, the raging flame completely engulfed his entire body. In the blink of an eye, Expert Wang was covered in large burns, and then instantly burst into flames. The eyeglasses on his nose were melted and deformed, falling to the ground. He collapsed in agony, writhing on the ground. It was too late for us to save him. Expert Wang's agonizing screams, writhing in the ghostly fire, echoed throughout the gorge. Anyone who heard it would shiver, not from cold, and judging by his state, he probably wasn't going to die immediately. Someone intended to use a shovel to throw dirt onto him to extinguish the flames, but the burned area on his body had reached 100%, a severe degree of burn. Even if the fire on him could be temporarily put out, deep in these Kunlun mountains where medicine was scarce, it was feared he could hardly survive another hour or 2. What good would that do but prolong his torment? The sight of a person being burned alive was truly too brutal. Lac Nin dared not look long and quickly turned her face away, her expression blank. She covered her ears tightly, her mouth agape, unclear whether she was about to cry or scream. Tiu Lam, the youngest person, also cowered in fear behind Andu, trembling uncontrollably. The squad leader drew his gun, intending to help Expert Wang end his suffering. Indeed, no one could bear to watch him writhe any longer, and letting him scream like that would surely cause an avalanche. The political commissar firmly held the squad leader's arm, which was about to pull the trigger, and whispered, "Can't shoot? Use the bayonet. Let me." On the mountaintop were tens of thousands of tons of ice and snow. Any loud noise could lead to disastrous consequences. Now, the only thing we could do to help expert Wang was to stab him straight through the heart, so he could pass away peacefully. There was no time to delay. The political commissar took the Type 56 automatic rifle with a bayonet attached from a soldier's hand, whispered an apology, closed his eyes, and plunged the bayonet straight into expert Wang's chest. Finally, he stopped screaming those gut-wrenching cries and lay still, but the flames on his body continued to burn. Just as the political commissar was about to pull out the bayonet, the ghostly blue flame suddenly flared up, unexpectedly clinging to the bayonet and running up along the rifle's barrel. The flame spread truly too quickly. In less than a blink of an eye, before anyone could clearly see what was happening, the political commissar's entire body was engulfed by the fire. Just like expert Wang, the political commissar screamed and thrashed desperately. Everyone knew him very well. He was absolutely a tough man. Though outwardly gentle and somewhat frail, in reality, his willpower and endurance matched the standards of the most elite professional soldiers. No one knew how excruciatingly painful the strange fire's burning was to make him cry out so piteously. The squad leader, tears in his eyes, raised his gun. Now, regardless of whether an avalanche would occur, no one could bear to see the political commissar suffer any longer. Just as the squad leader was about to pull the trigger, the political commissar, engulfed in flames, suddenly cried out, "I order. Comrades, do not open fire. Get everyone out of here immediately." Although his entire body was in unbearable pain, the political commissar remained lucid, aware that his agonizing cries might cause an avalanche. To stop himself from screaming, he turned the bayonet, now glowing red, hot in the flames, and thrust it directly into his own heart. A long moment later, his body was reduced to a pile of fine ash. The remaining members all watched the tragic, desolate scene in silent anguish. Each person clenched their fists, gritted their teeth, and suppressed their emotions to prevent tears from flowing, some even biting their lips until they bled. In the utterly silent gorge, the clear blue sky above reflected on the ice surface, creating an illusion that this world had two identical skies, making it impossible to distinguish what was up from what was down. The beautiful, sparkling, fairy-like scenery was nevertheless filled with a strange and terrifying atmosphere. On the ground now were two piles of ash. Just minutes earlier they had been talking and laughing, but now they had turned into mere dust, burned to the point where not a single bone remained. If one hadn't witnessed all of this firsthand, who could believe that such things could happen in this world? Suddenly, from the ashes of expert Wang's body, a bright green fireball flew out. It hovered in the air before everyone, as if choosing its next target. Its speed was extremely fast. Within its attack range, no one was sure they could escape. Gentle vibrations resonated in the air, perhaps the sound of the strange bug's wings flapping. Now, the squad had lost 3 people, all important members. The political commissar and 2 experts had sacrificed their lives. 2 engineers remained. One was Lac Nin, the surveying engineer, and another was An Lu, an engineer from the Shanghai Institute of Geodesy. It seemed this mission would be difficult to complete. With the political commissar gone, the soldiers had lost their leader. But facing this bizarre fireball, everyone seemed to share the same thought. Better to be buried alive by an avalanche than be burned to ash by this damn thing. Several people, unable to bear it any longer, raised their guns and aimed directly at the hovering bug. The squad leader suddenly stepped forward and said, "Comrades? Political commissar has sacrificed himself. Now I am the leader. I order all comrades to survive and return, understood?" I knew what the leader intended to do. He wanted to sacrifice himself so that the others could gain some precious time to withdraw from this place. I pulled the squad leader's arm, choked up, and said, "No. Squad leader is not yet a party member. Why should it be you? If anyone does it, let me." The squad leader pushed my hand away and scolded, "You nyat. You're not even a youth league member yet." I told you not to imitate my voice. Why do you keep not listening? As soon as he finished speaking, the squad leader charged directly towards the hovering fireball. The leader had only charged a few steps when he suddenly froze. An unimaginable scene unfolded before our eyes. The raging strange bug suddenly split into three, each as large as the first. 3 blazing green fireballs. One flew directly at the squad leader. The other 2 shot into our group like lightning bolts. Besides the squad leader, Zhao the cook and the messenger Tiu Lam were also struck by fireballs, their bodies erupting in flames. They all screamed desperately, thrashing and rolling on the ground to extinguish the fire burning their bodies. A terrible thing had happened. Earlier, when facing the fireball, several people were overly tense and had disengaged the safety catches of their machine guns, pushing all the ammunition from the magazines into the chambers. Tiu Lam was only 16 years old. He lacked the courage to face death and the steady mindset of the political commissar or the squad leader. The fierce fire, like a demon, had burned away his reason. In the agony of being gnawed by the flames, the gun in Tiu Lam's hand accidentally discharged. All we heard was bang, bang, bang. And amidst the heavy gunshots, 3 people were hit by bullets and fell into pools of blood. The situation developed in the worst possible way. The political commissar would rather commit suicide than allow us to open fire, yet in the end, someone still shot. While being attacked by this bizarre firebug was terrifying, it was not as horrific as the sound of gunshots causing an avalanche. An avalanche meant disaster from the sky. No one in the entire team would survive. Screaming loudly in the gorge below Glacier River had only a 30% chance of causing an avalanche, but firing a gun would 200% lead to the most dreadful outcome. Seeing Tiu Lam lose his mind and accidentally discharge his gun, with bullets flying haphazardly, mistakenly killing 3 other comrades, I didn't have time to think much. I gritted my teeth, raised my gun, and fired 3 shots immediately, striking down Tiu Lam, the squad leader, and old Zhao, who were writhing in pain amidst the flames. The sound of bullets leaving the barrel echoed throughout the gorge. This gorge was naturally narrow, and combined with the mirror, smooth ice walls of Glacier River, it was like a natural resonance chamber. The gunshots, screams, and cries. All these sounds rose in wave after wave, reverberating endlessly. I still couldn't escape the torturous pain of having personally killed my comrades. My mind was filled with their smiles and voices when they were alive, and my thoughts became hazy. Suddenly, I felt a chill on my head. Coming back to my senses, I reached up to touch it, and it turned out to be a snowflake falling onto my forehead. At that moment, the sky was clear, and the sun hung in the sky without casting dazzling rays. This weather made it impossible for snow to fall. The moment I touched the snowflake, my heart sank, and the thought immediately flashed through my mind. An avalanche. At that moment, from the burning bodies of the 3 comrades, 3 green fireballs flew out in succession. At this point, there was no need to fear opening fire anymore. Caoa, the best shot in the team, raised his gun and without aiming, fired 3 shots immediately. Each shot hit the center of a fireball. The bugs inside were much smaller than the bullet's diameter, so all of them were shot to pieces, and the flames extinguished accordingly. After this brief but brutal encounter, our squad of 8 soldiers, plus the squad leader and political commissar, totaling 10 people, now had only 3 soldiers remaining. Myself, Caoa Dukan, and 2 intellectuals, Anlu and Lak Nin. More and more snowflakes fell. Rumbles echoed from the sky, and the entire gorge seemed to be shaking. I quickly looked up, only to see from afar masses of snow swirling into a storm, like a white tsunami engulfing heaven and earth, surging towards the gorge where we stood. Endu suddenly pulled me and shouted, "Ho Banyat? Damn it. What time is it that you're just staring blankly? Let's get out of here." Our position in the middle of the gorge meant the avalanche would surely fill the entire gorge. There was nowhere to run. But in a life, or death moment, humans instinctively want to struggle and fight one last time. Lak Nin had fainted from fear long ago. Andu carried her on his shoulder. Cao and I pulled and dragged Anlu, running toward the other side of Glacier River, hoping that before the snow deluge hit, we could climb some relatively high slopes ahead, seizing the last chance to survive. In that most desperate moment, we did not abandon our guns. Guns were a part of a soldier's life. Abandoning them meant abandoning a soldier's honor. As for other things, we couldn't worry about them. All machinery and equipment were left behind. We even intended to take off our backpacks and leave them, but in our haste, we didn't have time. The 5 survivors pulled and dragged each other, fleeing for their lives. The snow deluge struck too quickly, as if moving mountains and filling seas. The gorge was shaken by the avalanche's energy, trembling thunderously for a moment. Before, I had heard people tell stories of avalanches, but I could never have imagined that in this world, such a terrifying silver, white colossal wave could appear in an instant. Everyone was disheartened. Even if they grew 2 more legs, they couldn't possibly escape.